Well, hello again. In this another exciting tutorial on how to create a platformer with me, Romy Fauzi. First of all, I want to apologize. I know it's been a while since the last tutorial on how to create ladder climbing, but I was so busy with another hired projects, and as of this moment the project is already over, so I can continue to create this tutorial. So in this session, I think I'm going to explain how to create a weapon system, and maybe if the time permits, also how to create the enemy. So let's do this. First of all, I've already created an asset, and are the assets. Let me check first. Where did I put it? I think I put it here, maybe. There. I put it inside the character folder, and this is the rifle object. So I'm going to drag this to our scene. There you go. And then I'm going to align the rifle to our hand. So I'm going to select our hand object, and then I'm going to drag the rifle to become the child of our hand object. So in this case is Boxman underscore R underscore hand. So let the rifle be the child object, and then I'm going to reset the position value for the rifle. There you go. And also the rotation value. So as we can see, it's aligning nicely to our hand. And then I'm going to move this object a bit here, so it aligns with our hand. Okay, and then for the next step, we are going to need to go into our animator, and then let's create a new layers. So basically we already been dealing with mechanism animator, and so far all of our animation are inside our base layer. And this time we are going to create a new layers to handle the holding a rifle pose. So just click on this plus button under the layer, and then I'm going to give it a name for this layer. Let's call it weapon handling, and I'm going to set the weight to 1. So this is the maximum value for it. And then I'm going to create a new state here, and this is the maybe for idle state or anything else if you want to. And then I'm going to open our character model, and here we have a weapon handling animation. So I'm going to create a new state here, and then I'm going to go to the project window, and then drag that weapon handle into our motion here under inspector. So if we go back to our animator, the new state will hold our weapon handling motion. And then let's give it a name of weapon holding pose. Okay. So, and then I want to set that if the player is on the ground, then he will hold the weapon accordingly to the pose, but if he jumps, then he will release the pose and go to the this empty state animation. So it will take the animation from the previous layer, in this case the base layer. So let's do that. I'm going to make a transition from the idle to weapon holding pose, and then also make the transition back from weapon holding pose to idle. On the first transition, that the idle to weapon, I'm going to set the condition grounded to true, and for the back condition from weapon to idle, I'm going to set the grounded to false. So okay, I'm going to save the scene and let's see if it's working. So there you go, we have a okay there. As you can see, it holds the weapon nicely, but it overrides all of our walking animation and jumping and stuff. So what we're going to need to do here is to create a new avatar. So let's create a new avatar. I forgot where did I put it, our avatar. I think in here. I've already created before, but I'm going to show you how to create this. So right click on the project window and then under create, choose avatar mask, and I'm going to give this name, this avatar mask a name, upper body 2, because we already have this one. So I'm going to set this give it a name upper body 2, and then open the humanoid rollout, and I'm going to disable this part, the IK for the feet, the root motion, and then also the leg. So we are going to leave the upper body only, from the pelvis to our hand to also the IK. So this will be okay, and then go back to our animator, and for the mask we pick that avatar mask that we already created before, in this case upper body 2. So, and let's try it again. There you go, we have the character animation and it holding the weapon nicely there, and it also can climb. So all the previous settings already intact. Okay, let's continue to our next step here, how to create a shooting effect. So in this case, I'm going to create a new empty game object, and let's call this game object muzzle flash, and then I'm going to set this muzzle flash as the child of our rifle object. So go to the rifle object and then drag the muzzle flash to be the child of the rifle object. Under the muzzle flash object, I'm going to zero out all the transformation, and then I'm going to move this on the y-axis of the rifle, the muzzle flash object, and put it on the tip of our gun sight here, or gun barrel, if I may say. So there you go. And then for this muzzle flash, I'm going to create a new I'm going to add a new component under the muzzle flash object, and I'm going to search it for the light object. So I'm going to put a light here, and I'm going to disable it. I'm going to disable the light, and then I'm going to also create some sort of, perhaps a line renderer, and the line renderer, let's start the position. Sorry, I have to check this first. I'm not quite sure what happens. There should be a there you go. That is our line renderer, and it's pink. So because we haven't set the material, I've already created materials for the gun lines, and it is actually like this. So if you can see, it's actually a self-illum diffuse, and I've just set the color to be a yellowish, a bit orange, and then that's all. So for our muzzle flash, I'm going to drag the gun lines to our material. There, as you can see, it turned green, turn to yellow, and then I'm going to change the start width to sorry, what did I do? Okay, I'm going to reset the transform first. It seems that we are having a problem because we already set the child object to our at the end of the barrel, the gun barrel, but somehow it moved after we create this line render. So let me check this first out. Yeah, okay, so I think I know what seems to be the problem here. For our line renderer, I'm going to disable use world space, and then I'm going to move this back to our gun position here. So let me align the Ganti game object holds the line renderer, and for the rotation, I'm going to not the rotation part, but I'm going to change its value to -1, and let's move this again so it align nicely with our gun barrel. And then for the end width here, I'm going to change the value to 0.025, or maybe make the start width a bit smaller, and this is even smaller. Okay, yeah, so I think okay. So I'm going to disable this muzzle flash object here, save as usual, and then I'm going to tag this game object as our weapon. I don't think we need to tag it, so I'm going to leave it be. Going back to our character game object, I'm going to create a new FSM, and let's call this FSM weapon. So first of all, I'm going to create two new variable for our game object holding. So change the variable type to game object, and then create the first one, a variable called rifle, and the second one, the muzzle flash. And then I'm going to put this rifle into our game object here, and for the muzzle flash, I'm going to put this muzzle flash here as our game object, stored game object. So I'm going to save the scene, and then for the first state, I want to create a event using get button down. So here, get button down, and I'm going to use the fire one button. In this case, it's our mouse left click, or on the keyboard is the left control, I think, and create a new state event called fire with exclamation mark, so it is obvious. And then I'm going to add the transition fire, and then we should create a new state here. Okay, so go to fire, and then upon fire, I'm going to enable a game object or activate a game object. So here choose activate game object action, and then I'm going to specify game object, and then I'm going to use variable here. So I'm going to enable our muzzle flash, activate, and then I'm going to choose to check this reset on exit. So this will reset the state to the previous state, which is inactive here. Here activate, and then go back to inactive here. Okay, so reset on active, and then I'm going to add another action called wait. Here I'm going to create a new float and call this fire rate. So how often we can fire before we can fire the next fire. So if that makes any sense, I mean, how often can you fire in a second? So or the time interval between the first fire and the second fire. So I'm going to keep this a low number, maybe 0.05 or maybe 0.1. Okay, and then on our second state under the wait action, I'm going to use that float. Use the float, and for the time I'm going to use variable and use the variable that we have used, and I'm going to add a finish transition here, and then I'm going to set the finish event to finish transition, so it go back to our first state here. So let us try. Okay, I haven't set the send event under our get button down, so I'm going to choose fire, and then I'm going to try it again. There you go. As you can see, if I press left click on our mouse, it will shoot, or if I press control, it will shoot. And notice that if I shoot the rifle, there is a lighting effect here, and to make it the lighting more interesting, I'm going to change the color to a yellowish color. And here, let's try it again. That is nicer. So it is more like a muzzle flash, but I think it's too bright, so let's change the range to maybe around 7. I don't know. Let's try it. Okay, there you go. Now another thing, this look a bit funny here. If we push the box object, it will stay on our what do you say, our holding gun pose. So let's make it better. Let's fix that. Okay, under our weapon handling, we can create a new state, and I'm going to add an animation here for our new state. I've already prepared an animation, and you can download this character. Under the description, I'm going to update the object. I'm going to upload the new one, and we have this pushing animation. So as you can see, he pushed the pose. Okay, I'm going to use that pushing animation for our pushing state. So I'm going to select the new state here, go to our project, and then I'm going to drag pushing to our motion here, and then I'm going to change this state to pushing. And for pushing, I'm going to make a transition. from any state. Here I'm going to make a transition to pushing, and I'm going to also make a transition from pushing to our weapon holding pose. So for the first state, let's create a new boolean. Okay, I'm going to call this push, and if the push is true, then we should push. We should go to the state, and if it's false, go back to our weapon holding pose. So, and then under our character object, go to our mechanism animation, and then I don't think we need to. I think we need to create a new state here, so I'm going to add a new state here and create a new global event. I'm going to call this pushing animation, and I'm going to set this pushing animation events to a global event. So add a global transition, that pushing animation, and let's set a bool for our animator. I'm going to specify the game object and choose our mechanism character, and for the parameter I'm going to copy this name, so the push boolean, and put it here and set it to true. Okay, so I think that will be all. Another thing, we are going to need to create a new FSM to raycast from the character to its front. So add a new FSM, and then let's create a raycast action. So I'm going to search raycast here, and then I think it's on the z-axis, the direction. So z-axis maybe around 0.2, not too. I don't want the raycast to be too long, too far. Just a bit longer than the collider here. Okay, let's see the raycast. It's too long. Let's make this shorter. Okay, I think it should be very short, maybe around this is too short so make this bit longer. Yes, I think this will be enough. Okay, it's 0.003. Okay, so I'm going to use that value here, or maybe 0.004. Okay, so I'm going to send an event here, create a new event called push, and then add that event to our transition push here, and create a new state here, one. And then here under raycast, I'm going to create a new variable, a game object variable for our mechanism character, and then I'm going to drag this Boxman mechanism to its value here. So I'm going to create also a boolean object, a boolean variable, push bool. Okay, so here store date head, I'm going to use push bool here, and then I'm going to add a bool task action, and we're going to test our push bool variable if it's true or not. If it's true, then push every frame here, and go to our second state here, and I'm going to remove this one, and we are going to set the animator boolean directly here. Oh sorry, set animator bool. Going to remove this one, set animator body, and then I'm going to specify game object and use the mechanism, and I'm going to enable this boolean value here. Okay, true, and I'm going to copy the first state here. I'm going to paste this. No, I'm not going to replace the start state. And then upon finish, go to the next state here. And for the raycast, I'm going to change this test. If it's true, I'm going to let it stay on the state, and if it's false, go to our next state. And I'm going to change this push transition here to finish transition, so it will be clearer for us to debug later. And if it's false, go to finish. Create a new state here and copy our set animator bool action, paste it to our last state here, and I'm going to disable the value here. Upon finish, go back to our first state, so it will like this. Let's rename the state so it will be clearer. So raycast pass, here we set also raycast task, but maybe add a name false here so it's clear. And here set push release push. Okay, cross our I'm going to cross my fingers and let's hope this is working. Okay, so as you can see, our character is moving nicely, and if it's okay, I think the box is too small. So in order to fix this, we have to make the box bigger. So I'm going to scale this back to 1, and then because if it's too small, it will not contact our game object. As you can see here, the character is already playing the pushing animation here, and this is wrong. Let's check our okay, let's see what seems to be the problem. If it's true, if it's push. Okay, I'm going to check our okay, it's true here. How come it's true? So let me check this first. Disable our boolean task, and here let's see our line. Okay, I think okay, this is weird. Okay, let me check for a while. Okay, so I found the problem. Well, the problem is actually on our raycast settings, the direction should be 1 on the z-axis, and we should change the distance, not the vector of the direction. So I'm going to shorten our distance here and make it 0.35, or yeah, okay, 35. And also on our raycast task false, I'm going to alter also these values here, make the direction to 1 and then the distance to 0.35. Okay, I'm I'm going to test this, and as you can see that our character is moving nicely, but if it's trying to push our box here, it will change to pushing animation. There, as you can see, it's working nicely, and I'm going to disable our gizmo here, and let's try our shooting. It's working, and then the pushing is also working. Okay, there's this another thing that we have to make sure. We have to make sure that the pushing animation only happens when the character is grounded. So in our any state to pushing transition, I'm going to add a new condition that tests that if the grounded is true. But for release, we don't need that grounded condition. So if we don't use this grounded to true, we will have problem like this. I'm going to show you the problem. This is working nicely, but if we jump and if we hang on the edge, it will switch to pushing animation, so it will look horribly wrong. So in order to fix this, we need to add that boolean test. So make sure the grounded is also true when pushing, and let's try it again. So it's still working with our pushing object, but if we go to our edge, it will work nicely just like before. So I think that will be all for our weapon system, and for the enemy, I think it will be on our next episode tutorial, so please stay tuned. And I created a game called Bounce and Rescue, and it will be really, I will be really thankful if you give it a try and maybe give some feedback for this game. And here are the links. I'm going to post this link here, and it is actually a very simple casual game for killing time, so please try it. Okay, I see you soon on our next episode.